Luckily for all of us, we no longer have to worry about the reign of Eldar rocking every single tournament. They have been officially dethroned by Dark Eldar. Like, come on! The RatCon in Australia hosted almost 90 players, and this Drukhari list went 5-0. Let's take a look at the list, its strengths, and hopefully find a couple of its weaknesses. If you're not that familiar with Dark Eldar, we can go over their main army rule, which is power from pain. If your faction is Drukhari, units from your army gain this ability and become empowered through pain. You can gain pain tokens in a couple different ways. Each time an enemy unit is destroyed, you gain a pain token, and each time a unit fails a battle shock test, you get a pain token. You keep these pain tokens off to the side, and you can empower your units in many different ways. Two of the ways are rerolling advances and charges. The other two ways are re-rolling hits in either the shooting phase or the fight phase. You have to choose this at the start of a phase, however, so make sure that when you're playing somebody, they declare it before they get a crappy charge roll and then go, oh wait, I was supposed to power from pain them. So let's get into the list. It has a single character, an Archon. Now this means that if you're going to pull Assassinate when you're going up against this list, you're almost certainly going to want to cycle it. An Archon is a difficult kind of unit to shift. They can be pretty wacky. With the proper dice rolls, they're essentially unkillable. 3 times 10 Kabalite Warriors, that would be 30 Kabalite Warriors. They're all kitted out, each group of 10 the same. A Blaster, a Dark Lance, and a Shredder. Now, they are really good at holding objectives. We'll get into the reason why a little bit later. Each Kabalite Warrior squad gets a Raider for themselves. So that would be 3 Raiders, each with a Dark Lance. We're already up to 6 Dark Lances. There's a theme coming in here. There is 3 Chronos, each as a single Chronos. I assume that they would be covering the battlefield because they have decent auras. 2 squads of 5 Mandrakes, 3 Ravagers. Again, each Ravager has 3 Dark Lances. Keep counting them up. 3 squads of 5 Scourges. Each Scourge squad has 4 Dark Lances, so that's 12 in total, and a Blast Pistol. So each guy's got 4 Dark Lances, and then their Sergeant has a Blast Pistol. And then the remaining 2 squads are 2 squads of 2 Talos, so 4 Talos in squads of 2. The Archon does many different things, and because Real Space Raiders is the only detachment they can currently have, you gain 1 additional pain token for having an Archon model, which is pretty good, but not all that substantial. The big gift that the Archon has is Devious Mastermind. Once per battle after an opponent uses a stratagem, if this model is your Warlord, which of course it would, you only have 1, and this is on the battlefield, you can use this ability. If it does so until the end of the turn, increase the cost of stratagems your opponent used by 1 CP. Now, this has been errated pretty consistently over most of the units in the game, and I'm sure this is no exception. It's incredibly strong no matter what, even after the errata. The Overlord ability. While this model is leading a unit, each model in that unit that makes an attack, you can reroll the wound roll of 1. While the unit is empowered, each model in the unit instead rerolls the entire wound. Now, the Archon is not ridiculously strong in close combat. He's pretty dang good. He suffers from strength issues. He's got a Blast Pistol, which is really strong, but you really are using him for Devious Mastermind, an extra pain token, and the Overlord ability. And who is he going to be leading? The Kabalite Warriors. Now, there are 30 Kabalite Warriors in this. Each squad of 10 gets their own personal Ravager to scoot them around the battlefield. But the key ability that the Kabalite Warriors have is Sadistic Raiders. This is common across many different units and many different armies. Kabalite Warriors do it kind of better than most. And the reason is because if you control an objective marker at the end of your command phase, and this unit or any transport it is embarked within is within range of an objective marker, it becomes sticky. Essentially, you own that objective marker until your opponent controls it at the start or end of any turn. The reason why this is better than the typical kind of sticky objectives as it has been coined is because you can be inside a transport and it confers this ability to the transport. which is incredibly strong. The transport that they will be riding in is a Raider. Now, a Raider has firing deck 11, which means everybody inside, including the Archon with a blast pistol, will be able to shoot outside. It also comes with a Dark Lance and some Bladevanes. Aether Sails. Each time this model advances, do not make an advance roll for it. Instead, until the end of the phase, add 6 to the move characteristic of this model. 14-inch movement, auto-advancing 6 with fly makes this thing absolutely devastating for how fast it can get to where it needs to go. The big kicker is that when you have a unit in this squad and they can make an objective sticky, you can essentially bounce anywhere on the battlefield, sticky an objective, and then bounce somewhere else. It's got great board control, as Dark Eldar almost always do. But I feel the big linchpin in this list is the Chronos and its Pain Parasite ability. Each time a Pain token is removed from your Pain token pool to empower a unit, if the empowered unit is within 9 inches of this unit, roll a d6. On a 4+, you gain 1 Pain token. It's got a great profile at 7 wounds, toughness 7, and a 3-up save. It has a feel no pain of 5, which means it's very hard to shift. Its close combat is okay. Its guns are all right. There's no limit to how many Pain tokens you can get refunded by Pain Parasite, so you got to watch out for where these guys will be positioned on the battlefield. Sadly, there's 3 of them, and they're not easy to shift. Mandrakes, another unit not really taken for their damage output. They're taken for their awesome ability, Fade Away. At the end of your opponent's turn, if this unit is not within engagement range of 1 or more enemy units, you can remove it from the battlefield, and then in your reinforcement step of your next movement phase, you can essentially just deep strike them anywhere on the battlefield. This takes the already really strong board control of the Dark Eldar and cranks it up a notch. There are 2 squads of 5 Mandrakes in this particular list, so they'll be owning objectives pretty much anywhere they want. It's an awesome, awesome unit. Again, their weapons aren't bad, but not really that incredible, and they're certainly not tough. My goodness, Fade Away, so good on a 65-point unit. There are 3 Ravagers in this list. And Ravagers are going to be really benefiting from Power from Pain. The reroll to hit rolls with their Dark Lances, of which it comes with 3, is super strong. That profile on a Dark Lance always impresses me when I see it. They have another way to kind of get rerolls if you don't have Power from Pain up and running, or you feel like it's a bit of a waste. Each time this model targets a unit that is at its starting strength, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 if the unit is starting strength of 1. So if it's a single model, this ability only applies to the target is at its starting number of wounds. So they're a great kind of unit to first initiate the fire of blasting out a bunch of Dark Lances, stripping off the first couple wounds, or just destroying outright. Now, the unit that I think is probably the best in the entire Dark Eldar arsenal is the Scourges. Not only do they come with 4 Dark Lances, sadly these Dark Lances hit on 4s, and they have the heavy ability, so they can hit on 3s. That doesn't really matter because you're almost certainly going to be hitting them with Power from Pain. So when you deep strike these units, which they have, or you can just move them their 14-inch movement and then fire the Dark Lances, you're going to want to keep them next to a Chronos, at least 9 inches away, so the aura from Power from Pain can potentially refund you the Power from Pain token that you would use to empower your Scourges. With the rerolls to hit from Power from Pain, this unit hits exceptionally hard. But their special ability means they live really long too. Winged Strike in your shooting phase after this unit has shot. If it is not within engagement range of an enemy unit, you can make a normal move of 6. If it does so, it cannot charge. This means this unit, after deep striking, if you place them properly, which I'm sure after 1 or 2 games you're going to realize how to play them, drop them onto the table, shoot your rerollable Dark Lances, and then tuck in behind cover out of line of sight. And there are 3 units of 5 doing this. So the turn either they deep strike or they just move 14 inches, they're going to be able to lay out some ridiculous firepower and suffer very little consequences. Countering this unit is probably going to become a bit of a staple in upcoming army lists. Something that can shoot out of line of sight is going to be a necessity. Though there are 3 of this particular unit in the list, so you're going to have to bring a lot of out of line of sight firing. The Talos. Now there's 2 units of 2 Talos, so 4 Talos in total. The Talos is durable, it's fast, and if this unit destroys an enemy unit, it is permanently empowered for the rest of the game, which ratchets its damage output wickedly high and also saves you power from pain tokens. Its close combat is great, its shooting is really strong. It comes with twin Drukhari Haywire Blasters, which is a pretty strong anti-vehicle, devastating wounds kind of gun, and some Talos Gauntlets. Now, it doesn't hit very well, but remember, all it needs to do is destroy an enemy unit, and it is empowered for the rest of the game, which means it rerolls all hits in the assault and the charge phase. So it's very, very strong. This list comes in with a whopping 27 Dark Lances, and with the many power from pain tokens you're going to get from having your Chronos always around them, trying to refund them on 4s, you're going to stack up pain tokens really quickly and be able to distribute them to re-roll hits on all these Dark Lances. This conquers a vehicle-heavy meta. Anything like Orc Trucks or Chimeras and Imperial Guard, which are usually rocking a lot of armor, 27 times. It's incredibly strong and it's incredibly fast. It also counters things like demons, because these Dark Lances are going to drop those big bad monsters, and you're going to be able to scoot around the battlefield, hold objectives, and screen your opponent out from deep strikes. How would I counter a list like this? Well, it's very difficult as it has an immense amount of power. You could do something like try to flood the table with bodies. Something like a bunch of Orc mobs would probably do fairly well, considering the Dark Lances, although there is 27 of them, will have a lot of meat to chew through. The Tyrannid Endless Swarm detachment that was just came out would probably do fairly well if you were playing 120 Gaunts against a list like this. A lot of out of line of sight shooting, some powerful deep strike units like Terminators, or some outflanking Infernus Marines are really going to shred a list like this, as Eldar is really quite fast, but not entirely all that durable. Any unit with a really strong Overwatch ability, like a Hexmark Destroyer, is going to do really well in a list like this. Keep in mind that the range is pretty tight on a Hexmark Destroyer. If they're smart enough, will be kind of keeping you out of firing range. I assume that the meta in this particular tournament really leaned towards vehicles, as the 27 Dark Lances made this list come out on top. I feel out of line of sight shooting would really benefit against a list like this. Being able to deal with the Mandrakes early and have some way to address those Scourges is probably the only way you're going to make it through a list like this without them completely dominating the battlefield. Sadly, I'm sure the first thing on the chopping block will be any out of line of sight units that you have, and 27 Dark Lances are surely going to do it. Let me know in the comments if you like these kinds of reviews. And please, if you've stayed this long, give us a subscribe, a like, hit the bell icon, all of that stuff. Really appreciate it.